Good afternoon, good morning. This is Schroeder Aglago from Love, Forgive, Live. Today's podcast is a little different. I'm joining another guest via Zoom, so you're going to hear other people in the topic. Now, is my brother Conroy Jiwanu Obi Aglago and another guest, Danielle Baker, so you can hear them talking in the background.
Oh my God!
Now, they're actually talking in the background, so we just joined in. So please be patient with us. We're going to discuss a bunch of things about family, children, and this pandemic, and how that is causing a lot of anxiety with parents in dealing with their children, and through the whole thing, how do we deal with it, and how do parents handle their angst of dealing with children with this anxiety of, oh my gosh, the pandemic. And now, especially in Canada, the days have changes for the time that the children have to go to school. So this is a very hot topic for parents and children, and of course, I'm on it. And so we're going to deal with the mental health part of it, and of course, how to juggle all this stuff and still be able to teach. My hats off for the parents of young children. My child is already 21, so I don't have to worry about that. Thank you, Conroy. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Tony. Hello, everybody. Now, please go ahead and introduce yourself, each of you, and let us know how many kids you have and in their age group. Danielle.
Who, me or Danielle or who?
Danielle. Danielle should go first.
Okay. Well, I am Danielle Baker. I'm a mother of two grown boys, 21 and 18, and just so proud of them. They're growing up to be wonderful young men.
Mm-hmm. So young men. So you have 3 boys.
2 boys. Yeah.
2 boys. Okay. Then the age gap is pretty wide.
There's 3 years. Yeah, 21 and 18.
21 and 18. Now, even now, you're probably still having them at home, right?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us about that.
I actually enjoy this age because it's a little uneasy as well because they're independent. They do their thing, and they are responsible young men, so I don't have to worry about when they are. What's hard for me is to let go.
The umbilical cord.
Let them learn from their mistakes and just be there for them when they fall. But yeah, it's a great. I've always enjoyed every stage of the children. So this is a fun one. We can have adult conversation. We can still tease each other.
I know how.
Each other with Nerf guns.
Of course. It's very exciting. I know what you mean by that. Is the mere fact that you can discuss something and they get it. And you don't have to go through the explanation of maybe making it age appropriate. You still have to be careful about some age appropriate conversation, but it's not so monetized. Not monetized. You're not constantly choosing words, appropriate words, and feel like, oh no, and you're having a dialogue whilst you're even talking to them, because you're constantly choosing, can I discuss this, can I use this word, what's going on, and then you have to be careful. But now there's a little more of a relaxed feel.
Yeah, and there's, like you said, there's a line that they know they can't cross, so when the language wise and what we'll talk about, but it's a fun, but like I said, for me it's harder just to let go because they're still my babies, but I get to see them, I get to see their personalities, and me and their father can kind of tap ourselves on the back and say,
good.
Okay,
awesome. I love that.
We're okay, but no, it is a fun time. Just trying to keep track of where they are, their ins and outs. That's difficult.
Great. Now I want to hear about Tony. Is Tony's his?
Is there feedback?
I'm not getting feedback.
Oh.
But
I'm getting feedback. I am getting feedback. Yeah.
So should I be turning my mic off when Like, how does this work?
When somebody's speaking, like say Danielle and I are speaking, and mute your mic. So now that I'm going to speak to Tony, he can unmute his mic.
Okay.
I thought I was just cheer for tech support for the most part
Oh,
for
my
tonight.
people.
You're here, so let's go with it. And it's a surprise because I only knew about Danielle, sorry, and now you. So I'm like, hey, the more the merrier. This is what I love about this because it's authentic and everything is spontaneous, but at the same time, there's a realness to it. That makes me excited because we know that this was not rehearsed. We didn't plan this. I didn't call you and say, would you mind being a guest? And we just put it out on Facebook and say, hey, anyone interested? And boom, 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 it happens. So I'm very excited about that. So Tony, welcome. Introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tony, and I'm operating tech support tonight. I'm the CEO of Market Trade. And yeah, I'm glad to be here with everyone tonight. And it's an honor speaking with you. As far as kids, if I was paying attention for the questions, so they are 13, 12, and are going to be 12. So I'm going to just say 12. So in February it'll be 12,
awesome.
And 3 years old, going to be 4.
Wow! How do you keep up with the 3-year-old and having the 13-year-old or the 12-year-old?
I would say lots of energy. Maybe working out does help keep my energy up, and then coffee helps as well. Danielle can definitely attest to that for coffee. But yeah, I definitely keep up with them that way. They're a lot of fun. Ryan's a bit of a handful, but he's definitely eccentric, little ball of fire. So.
I love that age though because they keep you surprised every second, and then. If you have the quote unquote the smart mouth one, they say something and then you turn around and be like, wait, what did this child just say? Right. And then you're like, I didn't expect that. And my child was like that too. And you go in public and then all of a sudden she drops something and then everybody goes, wait, how old is that child? And you're going 6 or 3 and then they're like, how did it, what? And I'm like, I can't explain it, just this is how this child is. So it must be fun to be running around and getting around on the floor and playing with them. But my question is, how do you deal with the physical? Because sometimes, I don't know your age, but I understand about me. If I have to get on my knees, getting up, okay, that's a struggle against gravity. So how does that go for you?
For me, it's actually not too bad. I always get down and, especially with the younger ones, I don't mind getting down on there. And then I think also me working out, I did a program called a Warriors program, or like a Warrior, and they talk about heavily about body being balanced and business. Mm-hmm. And with that part, I definitely put more of an emphasis on there because without your health, you don't have anything else. Mm-hmm. So that typically is made a priority where I guess in today's society that's not necessarily an ordeal. Everything's kind of just always start. But to answer your question for the physical part, I definitely like just getting down and getting dirty because I'm a boy. He's a boy. I'm a boy.
Of course. They will play their rambunctious and it's fun that way. Good. Now wait a minute. Where's Conroy? Jiwanu?
I'm here, my sister.
Okay. And those of you who don't know, the name Jiwanu.
Jumped on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry to cut you off, my sister.
That's okay.
Before you jumped on there, we were just getting started talking about men, like fathers, and their position about like how it is to be a father and how we've been trained to suppress our emotions for the betterment of the family.
Yeah.
And it's great that Tony's on here because me and him are both dads, and maybe we could give some of our experiences.
Yes.
Tony, I nominate you to begin, my brother.
You still didn't introduce yourself.
I'm Tony again. I would say from the guy aspect, there has been a lot of stigma going throughout the years, and especially going to where it is now, because, there's been a lot of suppressing of, if you're looking generational wise, there's a suppression of, okay, first the guy needs to make the dough, right? Then after he's going back after the war started, things have been shifting, pivoting. Then you can't feel after you're making that dough. So you can't express yourself. Not only can you express yourself, then now Jay's area, then the women can basically, or some are actually pretty much like taking the men's role, right? Supposedly, or whatever that's going to be. So on a level. So you've got a lot of confused guys out there being like, well, where the heck do I fit at? So, and that's what you talk about a lot on there, and it makes a whole lot of sense in that regard. And to be that now, it's a completely different dynamic than it was even 10, 15, even 20 years ago compared to now. So I think the shift has definitely pivoted to what is it like to be that. Where do you need to do? Because you even see the trends on TikTok, but those who use TikTok here, but I'm seeing more and more videos which are like, hey, your role, especially as a guy, is to basically provide and then shut up. And I'm like, oh, wow. But a lot of people, you see a whole lot of comments on those type of similar situations as well. But that's not necessarily the case, because I think because that mentality of you can't feel, you can't express, you can't delve down deep, that creates a whole lot of problems for the future, just in general, because think about our cell phones, right? It's instant gratification. It's instant this now. And then when you're never going to be going deeper into whatever that's going to be looking like, how are you ever going to have a legitimate conversation in the future? Because you're going to be talking, and it's like, on my phone here, my personal favorite, when we're going to have the metaverse on there, you'll be in goggles. Looking around. Hey, how's it going? Right? With your
that's worse.
Just kidding.
There's that human interaction and connection. And that's what I think people forget about fathers, men in general. Society has put this model or this box and saying every man should fit in there. However, we start seeing the breakdown of this box, because the product, the children who are growing up with that type of mentality that provide for the bills, pay for this thing, and then shut up, is causing a lot of hurt, because we are forgetting that these young men, these babies, will grow to become men, to lead. And how do you teach a man to lead when they're not equipped to take another person's emotions, their hurts, their internal dialogues into perspective and say, hey, when I'm doing things, I need to be mindful. You are a human being. We are human beings. We are feeling beings. How could we say that one portion of that is not to feel? That is so wrong. We were all born to feel. We were all born to be here and present. How do you stay present and feel and heal if you're disconnected and say, just pay the bills, just do the physical stuff and shut up? It doesn't work. We are seeing more and more hurt men now with severe mental illness because of this disconnect of raising men and telling them, don't listen to your emotions, don't speak about it, shut it down, and pretend it's not there. Pretending is killing all our men. Pretending is hurting our young men. Pretending is destroying the family unit. Pretending is not holding the family unit where it's supposed to be. We have to dismantle this lie, this facade. It's not working. It is time for us to look at this and say, hey, I watched a video, I think on Instagram a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about mental illness with men. And it says when a man or a father comes home and says, I am tired, take them seriously. Don't negate their feelings and pretend they're not telling you the truth. They're telling you. For a man to even come up and say sincerely, I am tired, leave me alone. I need time. I need to de-stress. I need to regroup with my mind and my thoughts. Hear them. We've spent so much time focusing on female emotional needs. The fact of the matter is, in order for that emotional need to become healed, we need to have that dialogue with both the men and the women. We can't forget the men because they're hurting too. So I'm glad you're speaking about this, and then we are bringing this to the forefront because it's affecting every aspect of our lives. Now, Conroy.
Can I chime in now?
Yes, that's why I'm coming to you.
Okay. Sorry about that. My 12-year-old just called me, so she called twice, so I had to make sure it wasn't an emergency.
Okay.
Now, I'd like to tell a story.
Okay.
My story, and you know it very well. So, growing up, I didn't have a father in my life. And so, what I did was, when I started having the concept that I would eventually have kids in my own life, I said to myself, okay, what kind of lessons did I learn from the adults around me? So usually with uncles, my mother's boyfriends, things like that, and my own imagination. And so I said, okay, with all those things, how am I going to use that to create the father I wish I had so I can be that father? And so I have 4 daughters, 15, 12, 10, and 3. And when my first daughter was born, I knew that, okay, I have a responsibility.
Yes.
First. And as they got older, I started thinking back, how did I feel at those ages? And what kind of father would I want? And, I tried to be that father. But then I had external pressures, social media, movies, uncles that raised me to be nothing but strong. So traditionally in my native culture, there's gender roles. Men are supposed to be a certain way and are in charge of certain things, and women are supposed to be a certain way and are in charge of certain things. Those are the old traditional ways, which I still subscribe to these days, but more modern times. What I realized is, because I didn't have that role model, I had a bunch of different things put together and the imaginary dad that I wanted. I thought that being nothing but strong and powerful was my number one goal.
Wow.
So which meant when I was struggling, emotionally and mentally, I felt like a failure as a father. Even though I was still being a great dad, I felt like a failure because, deep inside I was breaking down. And I thought, okay, well, I'm breaking down. So how am I supposed to care and provide for my wife and my children? If right now I'm just like, walking on a very thin string before I drop into the pool. And, through therapy and reading books and really understanding myself, I realized that I don't have to always be powerful. I can actually draw strength from my wife, from my children, from the people around me. It's not my load to carry.
Yes.
And society taught me that was wrong and that was good.
Wow.
If I wasn't prepared to carry it all, especially as a black man, as a black man, we're expected to be able to take all the hits when we get back up.
Yeah.
We don't let nothing stop us. And if we do let something stop us, we're weak. And I realized that was not appropriate. And I'm starting to break down the stigmas and the bad lessons that I learned as a kid. As a 40-year-old man now, I really understand that I can be these things, but I can't always be the strongest. And understanding that, and not to feel like a failure if I have those days. And then understanding that I don't have to be ashamed if I need help.
Yes, that's very important.
I don't have to feel ashamed of that.
Yes.
And Creator, at this time of my life, has blessed me and brought my father back into my life. And it's been a really beautiful thing, to have a dad in my life. My dad called me and said, "Happy birthday." I was like, whoa. I've never heard that. 40-year-old man. Like, I never heard my dad say, "Happy birthday."
Yes.
And that was like, "Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And I love you, my son." And so, all these things have accumulated, in the universe, within myself, within my father. And I realized, learning how to love is our greatest strength as men.
Yes.
We're always taught to be very powerful, very strong. But when we learn how to love,
yes,
correctly, in a holistic way, it allows us to be truly powerful. And I think that's what young men need.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. I think you're right. Because too many young men are walking around and say, "I gotta be tough. I gotta be able to take all the hit. And when I take it and I get down, I gotta get up quickly and pretend like it didn't happen." And then they go like, "Yeah, I'm good." But then people go, "Yeah, that's a man." But inside, they're hurting. And it's beautiful that you had your dad, even though others may say, "Well, it's too late. You're 40 now. What's the big deal?" But you were vulnerable enough to recognize it to yourself, and for your father to come in and then you said, "Yeah, I want it. I still want you, Dad, and I still need you in my life." It takes a certain level of discipline and understanding that you can still receive that love, even at this age, without the barriers of, "But I'm a man. I don't need that. I'm good. I'm grown." Now, to get to that place of this, and for lack of a better word, I can't have any way of explaining it except to use these words, and forgive me if it sounds like it's out of context, but I'm giving the best way I could describe it. The sacredness of this bond, of this need to allow the space for the healing to take place and allow it to do the work that it'll do in you without even recognizing that you needed that at the time. That alone speaks volume to itself, because men don't allow that in general. Men put up a screen and say that they are not allowing it. And I can't hear Conrad. I don't know why we can't hear you. You can go ahead and speak if you want to.
I think he's just messing with us.
Yeah. But yes.
I was trying to get a smile out of Danielle.
Okay. But this sacredness of this space, you didn't even know that you needed that level of healing with your own vulnerability to allow this. Because I don't know anyone at 40 and they'll be like, man, I'm grown. I don't know. Yeah, okay, now I found my dad. All right. But you allowed yourself emotionally to absorb that and then see it for what it is.
I think that's and I'm sorry I kind of cut you off.
No, that's right. Go ahead.
A lot of men, from what I've seen, is they just will shut that down and say, I'm going to prove him. I've never had him in my life. I don't need him. I'm going to prove him wrong. And that's okay if you're okay with that, but it won't get that healing. And then you're transferring that over to your children. So it's just generational wound that keeps popping up.
Yes.
So I like what you said there, Shona, and Conroy, it is amazing what you're doing because, you're letting that in and say, okay, that happened. That's okay. Let's move on from there and let's appreciate this. So it's wonderful.
Yes, and I commend you for that and thank you, Danielle. It makes it important. Right.
Okay. My brother Tony.
Yeah, I want to just chime in there as well, but to go back to what you said as well, Rhoda, is that the whole concept that needs to just be disbanded right now, that as a society as a whole, we've been taught on the premise to lie, and that is okay. And that's not okay.
Yes.
The whole premise of being okay is fabricated. You don't need to lie to be okay, or if you have a pain or you have that scarring on the inside, you can allow that to heal. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, too, I like the premise of what you're talking about because, like I said before, there's so much mass confusion going on. I mean,
yes.
Even in schools now, like I know back in my day, I wasn't confused of and I've got my middle son and my daughter as well asked, like, hey, Dad, do you know we have, a boy that's kind of now a girl, it's kind of be coming to my school and stuff like that. And there's just all this confusion. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter about any of that stuff. Black, white, yellow, brown, purple, green, is we all are human.
Yes.
And that's what I think people forget. Like, people are people. Yeah, there's mental health issues. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are a lot of stuff that contribute to that. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, a person is still a human being.
Yes.
And living in New York City, sometimes I definitely see the not-so side of people acting like people aren't human beings. And that's not good. But as a whole, I definitely see that it needs to evolve. And you're seeing it now. Like everything has changed.
Yes.
With the pandemic, with the system, with the economy, it is all pivoting right now.
Yes.
A lot of people are being woken up. So
yes.
It's exciting times. A little bit scary, but exciting times as well.
But that's where the best growth comes in, when that fear of not knowing, the unknown, and the imbalance. I was talking to my brother the other day, and I was saying there needs to be the death of the ego. The death of the ego, people are afraid of it, but the truth of the matter is that is your awakening to the real you, to the true person that you are before you came here to this earth school, to learn love, to be engrossed in love with humanity, engrossed with love with thyself. And then you can love one another without the judgment, the criticism, the mess, and the head games. We need that ego death. And a lot of people in Christian faith, they will say, die to self. I remember being a young girl, I would hear that, I'd be like, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And I didn't understand what that meant. And so I grew up, started reading the verse over and over and over, and then it hit me. And I was like, it's not about the death that we know of. Then learning about a majority of us are asleep. And we need that ego death to dismantle this. And that's what this pandemic has brought. It's like in your face. You have to deal with the ego death and come real and deal with the stuff that needs to be dismantled because it's become a smoke screen to hide you. And we need to come to the forefront with this. And men are awakening. And I applaud men who come forward and say, you know what? I want to be vulnerable. And I can't do it all. And I am choosing to do this because this is where I am right now. Now, Danielle, I'd like you to chime in on this. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay. We still can't hear you, Danielle.
Wait.
Oh, there you go.
My sound just came off my ear, so I can't hear anything anymore. I didn't hear your question. It just
okay,
cut off.
I will tell you. Because I was saying that how this ego death needs to start happening. And this pandemic has brought it into our face because what we were doing before was putting a wall, a smoke screen to hide us from moving forward and allowing us to dismantle everything. Now this pandemic has brought it to the forefront. We can't hide. And honestly, at this point, those who choose to keep hiding, I don't know how anybody could do it. But if they're doing it, it's going to be hard to do. But I'd like to know, like what Tony said, about this thing needs to be dismantled. About the men and allowing them to speak their vulnerability. I'd like you to chime in on that. We lost we can't hear you.
Okay, I'm good now.
All right.
Yay, I did it. No, that's something that I have strong feelings about because I've seen it. I've seen the impact in daycares from toddlers to preschoolers. The impact that has on the children, on the boys, when they're told, suck it up, you're a boy, don't do this, don't do that. And this really, the men have work to do on that and being able to express their feelings, but we need to come in as a community. Yes. And there's a collective work here that can't be just done. The men need to feel supported, to be able to dismantle that. And I think there's more and more people talking about it. These discussions are happening. Mm-hmm. And that's why I bring it up all the time. And I did that with Conroy earlier. Like, yeah, we could talk about mothers struggling and the anxiety they get, but let's talk about men who are struggling. And I've seen it. I see the impact. And we really need to start opening up as women also. I don't want to be hard on us, but if you're feeling some kind of way about your children's father, you need to be able, no matter what, to be able to hold that space for them, to have that time. And I really liked what you said. When they come home, I mean, if they're both working, you're both coming home tired. But if somebody says, I am tired, I just need time to regroup, it doesn't mean that they're running away from their responsibilities. They just need to make sure that they're showing up as their best version of themselves for their family. Yes. To leave that whatever happened behind. It's not a personal thing. We'll take it as a personal attack. It's not. We all go through it. So let's have that compassion and empathy for them, and start young. I think we need to teach our boys. We need to teach our boys that it's okay to not be okay. Yes. And to admit, and it shows great strength to be able to say, I am not okay right now. And we need to allow them to say it. And it's important for our boys, the teenagers, and our men to be able to, I'm not saying that us older generations are hopeless here, but there's, we do need to start young.
Yes.
There is a little change. We can change. It
yes.
is an old programming that we need to dismantle.
Yeah.
And it's little steps. We can't change the whole world at once, but we can do it one individual at a time.
Yes.
And
it's important.
Men coming together and supporting each other, and not just, trying to see who's, who can thump their chest the strongest, but to men actually hold that space for each other is also important. I mean, women do that naturally, I think. I'm generalizing here, but I've seen it myself, and you've seen it as well in our profession. We can see that women will naturally come together over coffee or something and then just vent.
Yes.
But men should be able to have that, whatever they do. It doesn't have to be over coffee, but whatever works for them, to have that space and for everybody else to support it and to respect it.
I agree. That brings a story in mind. I was involved with someone years ago, and one day I asked this individual, so tell me, who do you run to when you're scared and feel like the world is going to end for you in a minute? Or when you feel like the walls are closing in, who do you go to? This gentleman looked at me and said, what do you mean? I'm like, who do you talk to? Who do you run to when you're feeling like, oh my goodness, I really messed up, or I'm scared, no, I can't hold this all together? Who do you run to and speak and cry and just lose it, and you know that they have a safe space to you? And the person just looked at me like, I don't understand. What do you mean? Why would I go to somebody? And I'm like, I'm thinking why do you think I might need something? And I was like, well, life can't be perfect. Things happen where you feel like, okay, I think I'm going ready to lose it. Who do you go to? And I kept going back to the question over and over. And he couldn't understand me. He just, why? I don't have to, why would I go to anybody? And I was like, okay, do you kind of like talk to yourself to work it out in your head? No, why would I do that? Why would I talk to myself? That's crazy. And I was like, wait. You're telling me this? And he said, no. Why would I go to somebody? And I said, okay, so when you meet with your buddies and you spend time together, what do you do? And this individual said, we talk about the weather, we talk about the sports, and we might shoot some pool and get a knock back a couple of beers, and then we crack some jokes, and that's it. And I'm like, so who is the person? And I kept asking and wanting to get to where there'll be a sacred space for him to speak, because I know the person is not doing it with me. And I've tried over and over and say, hey, is there anything that I'm sure of that you feel like you need that I'm not providing? Can we talk about it? I won't put many judgments on it. I won't do any of that. I'll just be present with you. What can I do? And the strangest thing is, I never got any answers. So I'm thinking, okay, there's got to be something there, somebody. And I never did. And in my head, I was like, wow, I feel sorry and feeling sad for this individual, because everybody needs something, someone, somewhere to go to. And he said no. So that conversation was over. And that frightened me for this individual. And I'm thinking, wait, if this person is feeling this way, could it be other people who are going through this? And these are the dialogues we need to start having now, and sharing with the youth, share with our young ones, and allowing them to know that it's okay, and not put that chip on their shoulder and say, it's just all me. You can't hold it all together. I don't care who you are. And believe me, Superman tried. Couldn't hold it all together because it doesn't exist. Conroy? Yeah. Actually, I was just going to call you.
So the Creator has blessed me with pretty good memory. And, listening to you talk about, a young man had me thinking about how it was for me as a young man. And, I remember some people trying to get me to talk about my emotions and my feelings. Now, growing up in the foster care system, you're used to not having trust. You don't trust anybody, especially if it's a counselor or if you're in jail or if it's you don't trust anybody that could be tied in with a system. And now thinking back, I think one of the things you can do as adult leaders for the children, for the youth, especially young men, we can start by basic education.
Yes.
Emotion. The thing is like, I wasn't taught to understand emotion until like 5 years ago. I'm 35 years old. Not really like, I knew what emotions were, but to really understand it, I wasn't taught to understand it. And so all these things I'm learning now, it would have been very nice if I received that kind of knowledge as a youth. Because what I'm seeing is, if you don't have the capability to clearly understand when someone's trying to help you out with emotion, and you don't have the capability to communicate, it's always going to hit the brick wall.
Yeah.
Because you're building assumptions. So, when we eventually start going out as a group, Danielle, me, Shroda, and hopefully Tony joins as well. When we start going out and doing mentorship for young men and young women, we start there, is learning the basics of communication. And then from there, learning the basics about emotions. We start there with young people. It gives them that feeling that they can trust.
Yes.
And then they can open up.
Mm-hmm.
You have no idea where to start. And someone's speaking to you about, hey, this is what's going on and this is how we can help.
Yes.
It's just going to be gibberish to you because you don't have the capability.
Yes.
So, yeah, that was just my chime in on that.
No, I love that because it's important. Danielle, I feel like you're chomping at the bit to say something.
Well, no, actually, I think Conroy kind of covered it all, to be honest. So I'll just stay speechless because Conroy just covered it all. Awesome. What's that?
What about how young women feel?
How what young women feel?
Yeah, like in terms of communication and learning and receiving information.
Yeah, it is. I think there's a change in I'm just speaking on my observations here. It's not founded on statistics or anything like that, but from what I've seen with my experiences, the younger generations seem to naturally open up a bit more or have discussions. I'm going by my children. A lot of with my kids, they bring their friends over at the house and we end up having all these discussions and conversations. Some actually very interesting conversation. And I mentioned at the beginning of the live that a lot of the times they teach me things, like how I see how they interact. If there's an issue, they start talking, they do it differently, but they will address it right away. Like, no, I'm not taking that, or this is you're crossing the line, or I'm not saying all of them do that, but I think we still kind of need to, how can I explain this without getting anybody upset?
That's okay.
We do need to teach our daughters to hold that space. For anybody.
Yes.
And not just for men, but in general for everybody, where everybody's struggle is different, but it's still very much a struggle. So we need to stop comparing who's hurting more, or try to have these conversations where it's like, well, you're hurting, but I got this and this, and then we were just doing a grocery list of everything that's going on and wrong in our lives, and see who wins. Yay, But we need to change that and teach our daughters that it is okay. It's not, you're not necessarily, if it's again, I'm choosing my words carefully not to upset anybody here. But if it's a healthy two-way conversation, our young women or even the young men can have these conversations and hold a space for each other. If it's a give and take, if it's just, give, and you're not getting anything back, that's different. But we're talking about when this young man is there for you and is trying his hardest and best to do this alone and in silence, that you should recognize that and command them on it and really hold that space and tell them, I know it's hard, we'll get through it. They need that. They need that moment where they can just, just breathe, release. And we're not programmed. I know I'm speaking for personal experience, raised by a single mother who had just a very horrible divorce. So she raised her daughters to never need men in their lives. It was just like, you don't need, you can't trust them. You can't trust them. You can't do this. You can't do that. Don't ever, ever, ever trust them. Make your own money. Don't let them into your life. So I know from experience that coming into a relationship or a marriage, I had obstacles to overcome because I realized that if this was going to be a partnership, I can't come in that way. On guard. And it's hard to let that go when you're programmed as a woman or a young lady to defend yourself for whatever reason. It's hard to let that vulnerability out because we're kind of programmed to be hard as well. And at times. And so there's some work there to teach our daughters to be able to hold a safe space for the young men. But also not to become a target.
I agree.
It's a very, very hard balance, and that we do need to have those conversations as well. And it's not necessarily easy.
It's not. And I think eventually we will probably revisit this conversation again because there's so much depth that we haven't even tried to even bring up or even cover in this episode. I think this is a powerful beginning, that we are going to be revisiting this and bringing this because there's so many layers that we haven't even dug up or even brought up or discussed. And
too many facets. There's so many facets that you have to address. And
right now, my Tony may leave because he has prior engagement that he may have to go and take care of, but I will give him a chance to actually sum up what he's got out of this, and he going forward with more stuff that we end up discussing that he may be able to enlighten us about. And of course, let us know how to get in touch with you. So in case we run out of your time, the time for you to leave, how would our audience get in touch with you if they need to know more and get to know you and see what are you working on, what are you trying to, the message you're trying to impart on all of us? Go ahead, Tony. Tony? Okay.
Yep, I'm still here.
Good.
So, an interest from us or from me to everyone here that's going to be watching the show and that will probably be watching a lot on the replay is that to sum it all up is that it doesn't matter from where you started. It's more about where you're going, and your past does equivalent to your future. So be mindful of what you let into your mind. The things that we can all attest that we don't know what we don't know, but we can always find out, and that it's never a lack of resourceful or being resourceful. It's a lack of resourcefulness.
Yes.
All of the stuff that is kind of come into play.
Yes.
But no matter wherever everyone is, that we're all human. We make mistakes.
Yes.
We do have our trials. We have our tribulations. As parents, and since I'm a parent-centric person, because I am a parent as well as coach program on it, you're doing your best. Make sure that you're always keep on moving forward with your intentions out. And that's, if you guys want to reach me, you're more than welcome to reach me either on LinkedIn, Facebook, IG, and newly founded TikTok, which I haven't been putting too much content out. That's more of my silly stuff. But you might like that. But to wrap up, that's pretty much all I have to say for that one. So I'll hand it back over to you.
Okay, we still need to know how to get in touch with you.
Through all the social media platforms.
What's
the best way to go ahead and do that?
Okay, throughout the social media platform, but what is the full, let's say, for example, if I go to LinkedIn, how would I find you?
You type in Tony Mizell there, and then you'll be able to find me there through LinkedIn, Facebook, or IG.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Tony, I appreciate you coming, and I appreciate you being a part of this. It was an impromptu. I love you, and I am so grateful for your insights. Thank you. Now, Danielle, you may leave pretty soon, so I want you to also wrap up and what you've gotten from this, and then going forward.
Yeah, I always enjoy these conversations because I'm always the one who's going to stir the pot a little bit and get them started.
We welcome it.
We do need to start having these, even if it's just, social media, and to get the ball rolling, get people to engage, to react. So if you're watching live now or the replay, do put in your comments. It is important. People are going to read these comments, and it's going to resonate with them. They're going to realize that they're not alone. So it's very important to have these conversations. And of course, we were relating this to anxiety, especially with the pandemic up here. We're shutting down again for a third lockdown, and it is having an impact on everybody. And the youth are getting the bulk of it because they're trapped. They see their parents, they see the adults that are just losing everything and getting, not talking about it, and they can't do anything about it. So there's this learned helplessness where they feel like they're not good enough, that they're not strong enough, they can't help the people that they love.
Yes.
And so it's very important that when we see them kind of struggling or they're showing signs of anxiety, to not downplay that anxiety. It's important to get that message to, it's real.
Yes.
It's very real.
Yes.
They're not acting up. They're not being babies. They're not, soft. It's very real, and it is up to us to tell them by having those conversations and say, you know what, I'm not doing well today, but we're going to be okay. We'll get through this. And Conroy and I were speaking of some techniques that help to kind of get that anxiety down, but to start slowly.
Yes.
And one little step at a time is better than looking at the bigger picture.
Oh, yes, of course.
Get overwhelmed.
Yes.
So these tiny ones, I remember when I was going through a very tough period, for me, it was just to say, okay, I'll give myself 5 minutes a week, not even like an hour a day. It was like 5 minutes a week of just me alone to recharge. I started with that, and it started to progress. Now I do have time for myself every day, but
awesome.
When you think you can't do it anymore, that it's coming to you at all angles, just give yourself that 1 or 2 minutes, and it'll get better.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Hi, Danielle.
You do me a favor, Danielle?
Yes.
Can you please post a video on a technique on how parents and children can, do some exercises to bring their anxiety down?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that would be amazing. Absolutely.
Yes.
A lot of parents right now could use that. A video on certain techniques they can use to reduce their stress.
Yes. Yes, I agree. I will definitely do that, and I look forward to putting that out. But Danielle, we also need to know, how would our audience get in touch with you? Because my Love, Forgive, Live audience would like to get in touch with you. how would they know? Because this gives them some information about who you are, what is being discussed, and how can they find you.
The social media is kind of the quickest way to get in touch with me as well. So if you have Facebook, it's Danielle Connected. I'll put it in the comments below after this live, and it's the same for Instagram, Danielle Connected. You can PM me, message me. I also have a website, which is beingconnected.ca, and as I said, I think the social media, so usually Facebook, Instagram are the best way to get a hold of me, and I'm always available. Awesome. People tend to be shy and be like, oh, I don't want to bother her. But no, we're here to help. That's what we do. Right?
Yes. Thank you.
Absolutely. And we talked about this with Tony and I with the dichotomy parenting. There are no guides to how handle things with your children and how to help them. So everybody's there to help, and we're more than happy to help.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Now, Conroy, Danielle, I appreciate you. Love you, love you, love you, love you, sister. And I am just blown away with this impromptu plan. And it wasn't planned. And then you jumped in, and the same with Tony. Now, Conroy, go ahead. How can we get in touch with you? And what did you take from this? And what more do you want to share?
I thought it was beautiful. It was a bit frustrating for me.
Speak up a little more.
I thought it was beautiful, but it was very frustrating at first. But what I realized is we don't get good at anything unless we make mistakes, and we get better and better.
Yes.
So this was great. I hope the next one there won't be any cutouts and it'll go a little bit smoother.
Okay. How would our audience get in touch with you?
Yes. You would. I have a Facebook group called Cree Helping the Youth, and so you can. It's a public group, so you can go and just add yourself or join the group.
How's the spelling?
It is KCREE Helping the Youth.
Terrific.
And then you can contact me from there.
Awesome. Thank you very much, everybody. My name is Shroda Aglago from Love, Forgive, Live, and the Zoom meeting, which is on audio with Spreaker.com, YouTube, and iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and of course Amazon Podcast. You can find us there, and then you can always contact me at Love LUV, the number 4, Give GIVE, Live LIVE at gmail.com. Thank you for joining us. And you can always come back and listen in and chime in. And those of you who think they can chime in on this conversation, contact me. We can make this dialogue even more broader and then learn more about each other. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody. Love you all.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Bye.